think? Go get some hoagies and brews, come back and watch Slither?
Man, that is a plan and a half. I could go for a foot-long Italian with double jalapenos right now. Oh, man. Hold that thought, Braxy. We're not going anywhere right now.
What the hell is that?
Oh, right. You two haven't met yet. Abraxas, this is Silent Sophie. Silent Sophie, this is Abraxas.
My demon senses are telling me that she's not human, nor was she ever. But I can't tell what she's supposed to be.
Honestly, I don't know what she is exactly either. My best guess is she's the physical manifestation of all the negative emotions you get when you're watching a bad movie.
I thought that was Joey King.
Well, she might be, but Silent Sophie is one too. Basically, she pops up from time to time and forces me to watch some really bad movies. Okay, calm your friggin' tits. What are you making us watch now? (1983's) Mausoleum. A young girl is cursed by a demon which possesses her as an adult and destroys everyone around her.
Hey, that sounds like a pretty decent movie.
They sometimes do. They sometimes do sound pretty good, but they never are. Oh, you want Abraxas to watch it too? Well, I'm fine with that. It might be nice to have someone share in the misery for a change.
Don't I get a say in this?
I never do when Silent Sophie has a movie. Come on, the sooner we get this over with, the sooner we can get on with our day. What the hell is this? Oh, did we really fall asleep through that?
Right at the end of that painfully boring trek.
My God. Sorry. Why don't you give us the sleaze docket while I get a cup of coffee and an 8-ball of Coke or something?
We have 7 dead bodies, 6 cups blood, 8 naked breasts, 2 monster demon breasts, 1 naked butt, 1 naked bajingo, 1 pair tiny shorty shorts, 1 bubble bath, boring font opening credits, ghostly echoey vocals, exploding mausoleum locks, shitty contact lensery, Tom Peepery, sexy gardener teasing, gratuitous fog machine abuse, dramatic lightning cliche, 80s sassy black woman cliche, ominous green lighting cliche, psychiatric hypnosis cliche, cat jump scare cliche, 1 smoldering exploding head, 1 exploding car fire death, face scratchery, death by garden claw, telepathic chest hemorrhaging, psychic face ripping, psychic eye-ectomy, force choke maul drop impalement, ominous wine glass breakage, ominous door bangery, and monster demon breast chest devouring.
As with so many of Silent Sophie's offerings, Mausoleum is a terrible movie. But this is the first one whose only crime is simply being boring. But my God, is it a dreadful fucking bore. It's got some skin, some gore, some cheesy performances, but the whole damn thing is about as exciting as a seminar teaching small businesses how to find all the good tax loopholes, and the bastards didn't even bother offering a dry muffin cart and bottled water. Ugh. Man, I really don't want to relive this one. We begin with a flickery slideshow of cemetery pics made to look like video. A young girl is crying over a coffin that contains her mother. This is Susan, and her Aunt Cora tells her she'll be moving in with her until she's old enough to inherit her mother's estate. Still upset, Susan runs off, and Cora cries out,
"Not Susan! Oh, God, please, not Susan!"
Eventually, Susan hears ghostly whispers calling her name, and she finds a really shitty movie effect. The mausoleum door locks explode, and naturally she goes inside. Kind of feels like Link heading into a crypt or something. If she finds a hook shot or a magic boomerang or whatever, I'm turning this shit off. A vagrant approaches and asks what she's doing down there, but a shadow points at him, causing him to run outside, where his head explodes. Her eyes start glowing green, the coffin opens, a clawed hand reaches up, and we leave. Skip ahead a couple decades, and Aunt Cora is meeting with Susan's psychiatrist, Dr. Andrews. She insists Susan is beginning to behave the same way her mother did before her death, and hands Andrews a family diary. Whoa, hang on. The Nomad family? So demon spelled backwards. Jesus fucking Christ. Why the hell do these movies never anagram this shit? Use Nemod, or Denim, or Namda. Any combination of those would have been better than straight up backwards spelling.
Mailbog! It's Goblet spelled backwards!
Anyway, Andrews insists that Susan is perfectly fine and that she should give up these delusions that the family is cursed or whatever. We cut to Susan visiting her mother's grave, and we get a nice little voiceover of the doc reading the diary.
And was rewarded with the eternal possession of the first female born of the family known as Nomad, and can only be returned to rest by the firstborn having reunited the demon with the crown of thorns.
But instead of getting anything more than green light, Susan wakes up on the couch with no memory of how she got home. Her husband, Oliver, tells her they've got reservations at the club tonight, and it just so happens Grizzly Adams is out trolling for tail. Oliver gets a phone call, and Grizzly immediately pounces. After having to give the mountain man the brush off, she's no longer in the mood for shitty white people dancing, and Susan asks if they can leave. Out in the parking lot, the drunken furball makes one last alpha douchebag pass and stumbles to his car. Susan's eyes glow green, and the car bursts into flame. Oliver tries to get him out, but the doors won't budge. He backs off, and the car explodes. We fade to the next morning, where Susan is giving the grocery list to their live-in maid, Elsie.
You see anything else?
Pick up 4 or 5 guavas, Elsie.
How do you spell it?
G-U... Make it cantaloupe.
Ben the gardener knocks on the door and gets a little creepy before asking for a cup of coffee. He goes out to chop up a stump, Susan's eyes glow green, and the windows all begin to slam and shake. He goes back to work, and Susan decides to spend a little time on the balcony with a glass of wine and not much else. Later that evening, Susan gets Ben to join her in the garage, and we get a little more skin. We cut to the afterglow, particularly Susan's eyes, and she scratches his face and kills him with a garden claw. Next morning, Oliver takes off for work, and Aunt Cora comes by for a visit. But Susan's not feeling too well all of a sudden.
Oh my God!
I can't help you now.
Susan suddenly lifts out of her shoes and dangles over the balcony as she's psychically pulled apart like a fucking overripe papaya. See, there's actually some good stuff in here. Why the hell is it such a boring slog to get through? That night, Oliver wakes up to see the crypt keeper in a rocking chair and immediately calls Andrews. Naturally, he comes off like a lunatic, calling in the middle of the night and insisting that the doc come over right away. Andrew says to have Susan come in for a session. Next morning, Elsie sees some green smoke coming from the bedroom and nopes the fuck out of the movie entirely, making her one of the smartest movie characters ever. At Andrew's office, he has Susan take part in a hypnotic session. She has a few emotional episodes until the demon finally reveals itself.
You didn't know I exist.
And the doc immediately breaks the hypnotic trance. After Susan leaves, he calls a colleague of his, suddenly believing she is in fact possessed. He meets with her and leaves the session tapes and family diary for her to study. Back at the house, Susan eyes the delivery boy dropping off some plants for the gardener, but she tells him they didn't order anything. She invites him inside to call his boss, but he first decides to get a little handsy in the kitchen. He makes his call, and Susan goes all green-eyed again, and the delivery boy's head begins rupturing. Andrews and his colleague meet up again to discuss what to do, and she tells him the family diary says to use the crown of thorns. Oliver barges in, and they try to explain that his wife is possessed by a demon that takes a hold of the firstborn woman of each generation. He tells Oliver to not get too close to his wife until he's able to follow the instructions in the diary and save her. While this is going on, Susan is wandering around the mall. Who cares? She steals a painting and kills the shopkeeper when he chases after her, dropping him onto a table full of shitty sculptures. Naturally, no one in this crowded fucking shopping center calls the cops or does anything after witnessing a grisly death. Anyway, I've had enough of this crap, so let's speed it up a little. Susan starts getting really angry at Oliver over the smallest things. She takes a bubble bath, and despite the doc's warnings, Oliver gets too close to her. She transforms into a hideous demon, complete with monster titties that eat Oliver where he stands. Andrews goes to the mausoleum and takes the crown of thorns from the gate and races back to the house. Having never establishing a cat living in this house, we suddenly get a shitty cat jump scare for absolutely no reason other than to tick it off the fucking list of cliches this movie is adamant about following. Andrews confronts Susan, slaps the crown on her head, and we get a long fucking sequence of... Fuck, I don't know. The demon and Susan separating? Who cares? It takes a long goddamn time to do basically nothing. The demon slowly lumbers back to the mausoleum and takes refuge in the coffin. Susan puts the crown in with the demon, and the coffin seals itself shut. The two walk back to the car, but Andrew stops to talk to some dude in a robe.
You've known the secret and lived with it, like your father before you and his father before him. Remember, no one goes into the mausoleum. No one.
The camera swings around to show the dude's face, and... is that supposed to be the gardener from earlier? Oh, fuck off, movie. You are not clever, and I stopped caring a long fucking time ago. And that's Mausoleum. I actually joked about it earlier, but this is the first movie I've done for the show that almost put me to sleep. Towards the end, I did that move where your head starts getting heavy and the snapback motion wakes you up like 3 or 4 times. Eventually, I shifted in my chair to make myself less comfortable in order to finish this snooze fest. And to me, that's the worst thing a movie can be. Good, bad, terrible, brilliant, it doesn't really matter to me, but don't you dare be boring. It's really a shame because this movie has my usual trashy needs by way of skin and gore. But the whole movie's pace is too goddamn slow for its own good. For Christ's sake, she grows demon titties that eat her husband. Demon titties that eat her husband. How dare you wrap that into the center of a movie so goddamn boring that I never want to see it again? A lot of the blame has to fall on the performances. Everyone is so bland and flavorless. They're the movie equivalent to boiled chicken breast and white rice. Oh sure, they'll nourish you and get the job done if you have nothing else. But is it too much to ask for a little paprika or even some salt and pepper? Because when we do get some flavor, it comes off kinda looking like some racist Tom and Jerry throwback when Elsie takes off.
Good googly woogly. I tried to tell Mr. Farrell there was something wrong. I ain't been this nervous since I've been black. No more grieving, I'm leaving.
This was 1983 for crying out loud. I mean, I sometimes forget how progressive we weren't back then, especially considering this came out in 1986. And then there's the ending, which I'm sure they wanted to be some kind of twist, but I'll be goddamned if I know what they meant by it. The dude in the robe looks exactly like the gardener, and Andrew says that he will watch over the mausoleum like his father did before him. Okay, so let's run with that idea. I assume the father means the actual gardener. But that doesn't make any sense. If he's supposed to be some kind of guardian, then I assume that means he knows what happens if Susan becomes possessed by the demon. And he still sticks his dick in her without hesitation and dies a pretty easily avoidable death. Also, what's so goddamn funny? The dude at the cemetery laughs his ass off like they're purposely failing in their duties and actually making sure the demon finds its host. If that's the case, then there's even less reason the gardener should have met a sexy demise. There's no way I can bend my brain to make this final scene make an ounce of goddamn sense, and I just need to stop trying because I just don't care anymore. I honestly can't figure out if this thing was supposed to be a parody that just ended up not being funny or whatever. It doesn't feel like a legitimate horror movie, but it's definitely not funny enough to be a parody. Hell, even those blank movie parodies are obvious parody movies. Garbage, funny as a bathtub full of aborted koala fetuses, funny. But you know they were attempting to be funny and failing. Mausoleum? I can't tell what they tried to do. I just know they failed. So no, kiddos, I will not be recommending this one to you all. And I've spent too much time on it already. So it's time to say farewell for now. And until I grace your presence with another putrid picture, this is your whacked out weirdo sugar pants. See you in your dreams.
You know, Gare, for the first time in my life, I don't feel like a total dick.
Yeah, me either.